This is the Investor Connect podcast program. I'm Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of this show in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, family offices, private equity, and many other investors for early stage and growth companies. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Joining us again is William Santana Lee, CEO of Knightscope. Knightscope builds autonomous security robots in Silicon Valley, made in the USA, that are patrolling across the country 24/7, 365 to secure the places you live, study, work, and visit. With over 16,000 investors and over $70 million raised since inception, including $10 million in lifetime revenue, Knightscope is reimagining public safety at a time when the nation needs it most. Bill, thank you for joining us again.
Hey, good to see you. Good to be back. Thanks for having us.
Well, great. Well, we talked previously about Knightscope. Can you give us an update since then?
You covered a little bit of it in the intro. You know, when we started back in 2013, we've had a lot of challenges getting the company financed, and people are like, you guys are crazy for even attempting to do this. And you fast forward, I think before we started the last financing, we had maybe 6,000 investors, and now we're at 16,000. Which is just amazing. I also scare myself of wondering, how many questions have I answered? I tried to go do the due diligence, question kind of thing. It's like, I think I've answered 10,000 investor questions publicly, which is good training to be a publicly traded company one day. But things have been a very unique year. I mean, as you also noted, if you would have said to me years ago that you would be in the middle of a pandemic, the robots are immune, and the whole nation's looking to redefine and reimagine public safety, I would have said, that's a science fiction movie plot. But here we are. We haven't skipped a beat, and we're very proud of the team. Most of our clients are essential services, hospitals, law enforcement agencies, security teams. Actually, we're in our fifth hospital. We landed our first federal government contract with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and actually deployed. Super excited about that. We just got a water utility contract, some more casinos, and we're continuing to grow methodically and carefully despite the pandemic. And then lastly, I'm really proud of the team that we've been able to recruit even during kind of more than economic turbulence. So we've added probably a dozen folks recently and got a lot more openings at knightscope.com/careers.
Great. Well, what was the impact of the COVID pandemic on both your marketplace as well as your company?
Kind of mixed bag. One, so we physically build these machines ourselves, and you're not going to download these from the cloud. So we've got 2/3 to 3/4 of the team kind of working remotely. And then the rest of the team is coming in very specified times, and you need to get pre-approvals to be here. Everyone's got their mask. I've got folks cleared out here while I do this chat with you. And we've been able to kind of work through it. We've had to make couple material changes on how we deploy the machines, et cetera, but didn't skip a beat, which is to me fascinating. I thought this was going to be really, really difficult for us. But when you've got a driven team focused on making sure this all works, you end up doing making the impossible possible. From a client perspective, a mixed bag. We've had a few where either they are still on shutdown, or we can't be on premise, or frankly, their business has gone under. So had a little bit understandably there. On the more positive side of things, people are starting to realize that remote monitoring is the future. I mean, very crudely, do you want to be the security guard at a hospital right now? Probably not. Right. So a mix, I would say neutral to positive overall, but it's a very trying time for obviously the entire country.
What do you think the long-term impact of COVID is on, say, the robotics industry itself? What's going to happen there?
I think it's net going to be positive, but there's one flaw in that logic is maybe your viewers may or may not know this, but about $100 billion goes into startups every year. Approximately 85% goes into software, 10% plus or minus into biotech, and the rest into other. And that other is this tiny little sliver for anything kind of hardware robotics related. So for all those viewers worried that the robots are coming to kill you and take your job, I would just say follow the cash. And that's highly unlikely because the sector is underfunded, massively underfunded for what people's expectations might be, or for the expectations that Hollywood has put forth over the last 3 decades.
Well, that's great. I recently saw a Merrill Lynch report that said there's over 400,000 robotic jobs available now, and that was just before the pandemic really hit the peak, and wondered how much that might increase over the years as the need for, secure supply chains, manufacturing, reshoring, and other things are shifting an emphasis back into the space from what it was before, where everything was just software. It seemed like it might be going into another direction here after COVID passes one of these days.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things, it's creation of new jobs that didn't exist before. So a production specialist to build robots, okay, that's going to continue to grow. Well, how about the deployment specialist to actually get these things deployed? What about the network operations center specialist to make sure that the machines are running 24/7? And you end up creating new things that kind of didn't exist before. So there's certainly always opportunities in chaos, I'll say.
But we're hearing a lot about that. I've now hear the term manufacturing reshoring come up in many of these podcast interviews, and secure supply chain, becomes now the watchword. And so people are changing how they organize and design their supply chains for robustness, et cetera. So it seemed like it's going to be a different world when things get back to standard. But tell us more about your products there. How long have these robots been in the field?
We're actually entering into our 4th winter. Machines have operated well in excess of 1 million hours. So we've got a lot of field experience or lessons learned. We got a lot of experience on how to operate 24/7 in the rain, at night, with people, cats, dogs, trucks, 18-wheelers, and the like. And a lot of the stuff, I like to say, you can't build and deploy in a laboratory. You need to physically be out there in the field making mistakes and fixing them, because there's so many edge cases, so many things you never would have thought you'd encounter until you're actually out there. And that to us gives us a pretty significant competitive advantage to actually been in the field. Maybe it might be helpful for the viewers. Over $80 billion has been invested in self-driving technology. There's about 200 companies working on it. I believe Knightscope's the only company in the world that's actually shipped something that's commercially viable with real clients in the real world, operating 24/7, full autonomous with no human intervention. Most of the other stuff out there is a lot of great stuff, but it's all R&D projects and very dubious commercialization plans that probably are really going to go into real production for another decade or two.
Well, where are you operating now? Are you still only in California, or are you spread further now?
We have contracts in 5 time zones. We're operating literally from Alaska to Rhode Island. Teams working on the Hawaii contracts. But yeah, it's been an interesting challenge. That Alaska deployment actually we did during COVID, which gave us a unique opportunity. Like, okay, how do we get this machine that's here over there and deployed in a seamless manner that the client would be okay with? But, we figured it out, and now we're off deploying a few more before the year's out.
Well, great. Well, tell us more about the platform itself. What's the core technology behind it?
There isn't one thing. It's the combination of everything to work together. A lot of investors like to say, well, what's the one thing that really makes the whole thing? That's not how the world works. It's like asking a race car driver, like, what's more important, the steering wheel or the brakes? You kind of need the whole thing to work together. So I like to say it's a unique combination of the self-driving portion, the navigation, being able to operate 24/7 in a crowded area with lots of people or lots of vehicles or up and down a 9-story parking structure. But at the same time, being able to grab as much information from the environment as possible. So the machines behind me, they generate over 90 terabytes of data that no human could ever possibly process. And a lot of folks like to focus on the shiny objects there. But what's really interesting is the browser-based user interface that we've built for our clients to utilize so they can interact with the machines. So give you a quick use case. So we have several Fortune 1000 clients. Let's say they terminated someone last week and it didn't go well, and they're worried that that person might come back. They can blacklist their license plate, their face, as well as all their mobile devices. And then the machines are literally on the lookout for those detections. Again, giving the the guards and officers really smart eyes and ears for them to cover a lot more ground than they normally would be able to. So it's that unique combination of robotics, self-driving technology, and AI that makes literally providing magic at a guard's fingertips.
So what surprised you most about this sector? What was a surprise to you?
Probably two things. One was back in 2015 when we put the first one out in the real world, and we didn't know what was going to happen. I was genuinely scared. Like, will society allow us to do this? And are people just going to go nuts? Like, there's a robot roaming around by itself. There's no one remote controlling it. But after we saw the hugs and kisses and selfies and all kinds of shenanigans on the positive side of things, I thought we're going to be okay. And then the second thing, I think, for the entrepreneurs out there, the stuff that you worry about when you're innovating and, oh my God, this thing's going to go wrong, that thing's going to go wrong. None of that stuff ever goes wrong because you're focused on it. The things that go wrong are the things that never occurred to you to even have that conversation, much less call the meeting and come up with an action plan. And that's why I'm a big promoter of getting yourself out in the field, in the real world, and getting punched in the face, basically, and understanding what that impact might be, and then going back to the drawing board and figuring out how to fix that problem.
Great. Well, we have quite a few investors that listen to the show. What's your advice for people investing in this space?
I think in general, I probably focus on three things. People like to do all kinds of analysis and everything. To me, for us, for Knightscope, I think it's three things. One, fundamentally, do you believe that robotics, AI, and autonomous technology are going to change the world dramatically over the next 10 to 20 years? Yes or no? Kind of binary question. Second, investors usually worry, is the market for that product or service that you're offering going to collapse? Or flip phones going away, or station wagons going away? And is that innovation that you have not going to be needed later? I can pretty much assure you that the market for crime is never going away. It's not like tomorrow people are going to wake up and all start behaving. So you need to think and ask yourself, do you believe that crime is ever going to collapse? Yes or no? Again, binary question. And then the last thing is, do you trust the management team to execute what they said they're going to go do? Do they have a track record of executing? And when things go wrong, not if, when things go wrong, are they smart enough and driven enough to fix the problem? And that's it. Three basic, simple questions. Yes or no?
Great. And can you tell us more about the use case that people use robotics for at these different sites like hospitals? How exactly are they working?
Every client's different. So in some cases, it might be patrolling the parking lot. Some cases, it literally is an empty building. The insurance company says you have to have security. They don't want to pay a security guard $28 an hour to stare at an empty building. In some cases, they're just looking for that physical deterrence. That's one of the most fascinating things that people who are not around security don't understand. Maybe two quick analogies would be, if you're driving down the highway and you see a police car, it doesn't matter what speed you're going to hit that brake pedal, right?
Absolutely.
Or if you're a criminal and you're looking to steal a vehicle, if you pull into a parking lot at 3:00 in the morning and there's a 5-foot tall, 400-pound machine roaming around on its own, no one's remote controlling it, there's strobe lights going, it says security on it, you have no idea what it does, you are going to go steal that car somewhere else and not there. And that's cut across from our corporate clients to the hospitals, logistics facilities, manufacturing plants, casinos, basically anywhere indoors or outdoors you might see a security guard is a unique opportunity for Knightscope.
Great. So what's coming up next for Knightscope? Either new products or technologies or markets? What's new on the horizon?
Execution, just growth. Now that we've got things working and pretty much every issue that we have in the building I can fix with people, cash, and time, it's just scaling up. And that's our primary focus now. And, there's always growing pains where, you kind of hack something and there's maybe some technical debt, some process debt or something like that. So we need to kind of fix some of those issues as we continue to add more and more clients across the country.
Great. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
Probably the crime fighting wins. If most people, I think I still find it fascinating that the technology works, as silly as that might sound. But we've helped the law enforcement agency issue an arrest warrant for a sexual predator We helped another law enforcement agency end a domestic abuse situation. Another one was apprehending an armed gunman, helping a security officer apprehend a retail thief, stopping a corporate vandal, and the list just goes on and on and on. And we're just getting started. So if you want to know more, go to knightscope.com/crime. There's a nice long list there, including data from a law enforcement agency that we didn't ask them to put together, that shows that we were basically effectively able to cut crime in half in the area that we've been patrolling. So we've got a unique set of technologies to help society with a recurring revenue business model for a recurring societal problem.
Great. So how best for listeners to get back in touch with you?
If you go to securityrobot.com, you can learn a little bit more about the company. And then at the lower bottom right, there's a little blue icon for instant messaging. That is not a bot. That is me answering questions during normal business hours. And I always end up having these silly conversations where people are like, this is not the CEO. Yes, it is the CEO. Prove it. I'm like, I don't have time to play the bot game. It's me. What is your question? How can I help you? So just be nice. I might be exhausted. I will answer the questions. So sometimes I'm on a call like this and may not be able to respond instantaneously, but I will respond. So hopefully that is helpful to folks.
Well, we'll put those in the show notes. I want to thank you for joining us today for this update and hope to have you back for a follow-up again soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Hall. Be safe out there.
You too. Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Halti Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early-stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall in podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.